We've obviously got the Supreme Court decision coming up any week now. It looks like a lot of experts are saying that it's going to be later in the month that we'll know what the ruling is.
Yes.
I guess, first question, easy question. What's your expectation? What do you think the court is going to find? Do you think they're going to strike the whole law down? Do you think they're going to strike part of it down? What's your prediction?
I really have a 50-50 sense about this, that 100% that the individual mandate will go down 5-4. And then I really just feel it's 50-50 whether or not they they determine that the entire law, that's not severable and the entire law has to be overturned, or they piece away at it. And I think you can certainly identify the justices who would support its not being it's being severable. Justice Ginsburg, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan, probably. And the question is what Justice Kennedy will do. As we all know, I think that's what it's going to come down to. And either way, there's going to be, and I'm among the multitudes who predict that there's going to be an enormous opportunity for us to approach this entire and very pressing issue with fresh eyes and get it right. It's going to be a lot of work and a lot of listening to the American people and a lot of exchange with the American people and their legislators. But we need to get it right the next time.
Well, let me ask you this, Congresswoman, and obviously, you're in the medical community. You're a doctor yourself. You're in the doctors' caucus. I think the big question that a lot of folks have who are observing this case is what's next. If the Supreme Court strikes it down, what do lawmakers do in terms of possibly replacing it? And there have been reports in recent days and weeks that suggest that House Republicans are working on sort of contingency plans. We know that there are certain provisions within the law that have a bipartisan backing. The preventing discrimination against folks with pre-existing conditions, for one. So what are some plans that you can tell me about that would be going into that lawmakers would be looking at to replace this thing?
Well, as a member of the House Doctors Caucus, I've been privileged to participate in a number of discussions, and of course, those involve colleagues who have. We have many of us who are freshmen who are in the Doctors Caucus, and of course, we have a number of colleagues who have been members for many years, fighting for the right way to provide for health care and affordable portable health insurance. So, my personal prediction, anticipation, based on everything I've heard and what we discussed within the conference and what we have been starting to address in public, is that there is going to be, certainly we have many great ideas, some of which have been presented as bills to the House and are working their way through the committees of jurisdiction. And a lot of what we're going to be doing, I predict, will be to provide reassurance that life will go on in the months following the Supreme Court decision, and that we will be working with the idea that there may be a much clearer pathway, that presumably there will be a clearer pathway in November once we have some idea of what the composition of the House and the Senate and the administration will be. And at that point, it will be far more predictable, I think, the kinds of specifics that would be included in new legislation.
So in other words, you're saying let's sort of put this off until things have been determined in November and take a look at it in the next term?
Well, we're going to be listening, and rightly so, to what the American people have experienced during these 2 years of that 2010 law being in full force. And of course, the implementation has been gradual, but the law has been in effect. And people have had some experiences that they've liked, the public has liked certain provisions. Many others they have found great fault with. So I don't anticipate that the House Republican Conference will endeavor to put forward any sort of brand new omnibus bill. That's not the way we would try to approach this issue anyway. The whole idea that the federal government could somehow organize everybody's individual health care is one of the major problems with the 2010 law. But how do we craft the kind of legislation that will make sure that the problems that led to that 2010 law being passed, namely a real perception that there were Americans who could not gain access to insurance in the way that all of us would like to see. How do we ensure that we help those who most need help without incurring massive bureaucracy and costs?
Sure.
And we're going to spend these months thinking together with the American people about that very issue.
Well, it sounds like the GOP conference is looking at effectively replacing this in a piecemeal fashion. If the law goes down, doing it piece by piece. Let me ask you to that point. Yeah. Is there anything in the current law that you like? Any sort of standalone provision that you would advocate for keeping? Should the court strike the whole thing down?
Well, the principle that the law was meant to serve is a very worthy principle, and I've always said this: we want to make sure that all Americans can have access to good, affordable care, to affordable and portable health insurance, and from the House majority side, speaking as one member of that House majority who is an advocate for federal government being the right size, not so invasive, not so costly, not trying to take centralized control of what belongs in the hands of patients and doctors and providers. I don't want to see a federal bureaucracy put in place to try to micromanage our health care. What we want to do is make sure that the federal government provides the framework or assures the framework so that all Americans have the opportunity that they need and deserve to have access to the best care. And we want to make sure that our medicine, that American medicine, remains the best in the world and that it's accessible to everyone.
Let me ask you: do you think you can effectively do that without some sort of provision that would require Americans and consumers to take some sort of personal responsibility action on their behalf to get insured? I mean, can you do it without the personal responsibility clause, I guess?
Well, personal responsibility, it's a great point, Jeff. Personal responsibility is a fundamental aspect of being a good citizen in the most magnificent democracy ever to exist in history. And certainly as a doctor, I know that my patients who were conscientious about taking responsibility for their health and who made sure that they did the smart things that they should do about assuring that their families were covered for the kind of big expenses that insurance was meant to cover. They were the ones who did better. So we want to help everyone reach that point. And there are going to be some folks in our society who have real trouble. We can think, and we all know examples in our own lives of folks with severe disabilities, in particular, who can't do those things on their own, who do need help. And we want to make sure that they get that help. But it's not good for our society as a whole, and it's not good for us as individuals when the federal government micromanages from Washington.
Sure.
And that's what this law did. So we want to serve those worthy goals without going so far that we actually do more harm than good.
Congressman, let me ask you one last question. I don't know if you saw this morning, but Mitt Romney was in Florida, and he said that, of course he would help, Congress repeal the law if it stands and survives the Supreme Court review. But one of the things he said he'd keep is, allowing people who already have insurance, who have pre-existing conditions, to stay on that insurance. In other words, maybe folks who lose their jobs, who need to switch insurers. Is that something that you would support?
Well, again, as a principle, that's one that we want to honor. We want to make sure that everyone has access to affordable, portable health insurance. Everyone. I personally, and I'm just speaking for myself, would like to see insurance travel with the person rather than be a condition of employment. And, of course, the way most of us have been used to health insurance since after World War II is that it's based with your employer. And that can make for real challenges when, as so many of us do these days, when we move between jobs. But there are good ways to base insurance with the person rather than with the employer. And I think we have to assure that we can provide that kind of flexibility and that we don't have laws that limit that flexibility. And right now, certain aspects of law do limit that flexibility. So we need to make it easier, more consumer driven, and we can't.